Hey everyone, welcome to Wildlife Inspired. I'm your host, Scott Keys, and this is your channel for photography, for wildlife, and for wildlife photography. But in today's video, we're not talking about still images, we're actually talking about sound. This video is all about microphones and how to get great sound into your camera equipment. I've got some tests that you're going to find interesting. I'm the practical wildlife photographer, so you know I'm going to show you some examples. And I'm going to get to all of that right after this. So while this channel normally talks about photography and still images, today we're actually talking about audio. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about microphones. Down at the bottom, there's going to be some chapters, by the way. So if you know the basics on types of microphones and how they work and why they're so important for your videography, you can go ahead and skip because I've got a section just on testing them. I think everybody's going to be interested to hear what they actually sound like. So you can jump down using the chapters down below, but I would encourage you to stay tuned because I'm going to give you some information, some of the stuff you may not know, and if you're interested in switching and using your camera for more than just still images, stay tuned because I'm going to give you the basics about microphones and connecting sound to your camera. And I want to start with just telling you why it matters. Good audio is critical. For example, retention can be greatly improved by good sounding video, and it can be greatly reduced by bad sounding video. This is a lesson I've learned a long time ago. I can remember in the early days, I used to get some feedback like, I like your content, but I can't listen to it. Like the audio was just so bad. And I've produced some older videos that were pretty bad. I've tried to, over the years, really understand audio. In fact, I went down a wormhole one year on microphones. I think I bought about 8 different microphones before I settled on some of the microphones that I really like. Some of them I've got down here to show you today, but we're really going to spend some time talking about 3 components. Most of this video will deal with microphones and the different types of microphones. A second component we're going to talk about are amplifiers or adapters. These are things that are going to help your audio sound better. So they're going to make your microphone sound better, and they're going to eliminate some of the really bad electronics that are on your camera for sound. What comes on your camera is very entry level. So you're getting a very small basic microphone and you're getting some very poor preamplifiers for the most part. Those preamplifiers, think of it as that's what boosts the signal so you can actually hear it. So we are in this video going to talk about microphones. We're going to talk about some external adapters or amplifiers, and then we're going to talk about connections. The connections are pretty quick. We'll run through that as we get through the video. But I want to start with this idea of having 2 different things that we need. So we need the microphone. That's going to record the sound coming in, but we also need a way to boost it. So for this video, I'm going to use one product that you're going to see a lot. There are hundreds of these. I only own 2 different types of products. These are external adapters, and this will be what takes your microphone. So we've got a microphone like this we'll talk about in a minute, but I have to have a way to get it into the camera, and the way I'm going to do that is through the use of this external adapter. I'm going to plug the microphone in here, and then I'm going to have the signal come out. The big advantage of this or any of these is that typically they are designed for this. They are sound and audio vehicles that are much better than what's built into your camera. So these preamplifiers, for example, this is called Beach Tech. This is a very well-rated, I'll put a link for this down below, a very well-rated audio interface. I may use the terms adapter, interface, or preamps. When I do, I'm talking about this third-party piece that will often be attached to a camera that's used to help the sound. All right, so we've got microphones, we've got what I'm calling an interface for this video, and then we also just need to know what kind of connectors we have. So I'll deal with the connectors real quick because there's 3 basic types of connectors. One that you're going to see a lot, or I refer to these as 3.5 jacks, 3.5 millimeters, and this is common what goes into your camera. So when we're bringing audio in, you will often see this 3.5. There are some other 3.5 jacks. I'm just going to use the term 3.5. If you need more specifics on that, I can answer your questions down in the comments, or there's other videos out there for you. I may accidentally say the wrong connectors. These are XLR connectors. If I say USB connector, I'll fix it down at the bottom. I've been dealing with USB cables all week. These are XLR cables, and these are normally designed to work with higher end microphones. So for example, this is a handheld microphone. This has a XLR connection, and this would just clip right in here. When those pins line up, where are you? There you go. And then it pops in. All right, so now that's connected, and these are heavy duty cables. So that's the most professional connection. You may also see, and I believe these are just called 1/4-inch jacks. You may also see this connection. These are used sometimes in audio pieces of equipment. You're not going to normally see them on a camera, but it could be used in some cases. So I don't have a whole lot of cases in this video for it, but I'm just going to mention that that's what that looks like. So if you ever see that term, those are the three primary ways of connecting audio equipment. And in this video, we're going to use I almost said USB cable, XLR cables, and we're going to use those 3.5 millimeter jacks. So if those are the three general things that we need to know about for audio and getting the sound in here, what I want to spend the most amount of time on in this video are microphones and the different types of microphones. Now, I'm going to mention a few that I'm not going to show in this video because there's two styles for photographers who are also doing videography and for my wildlife photographer friends that you're going to want to know about. The first style we're going to talk about are shotgun mics, and then we're also going to talk about lavalier or lav mics. There are other styles. For example, we might call this a handheld mic. And this would be what we typically see people singing. You may see people interviewing others with a handheld mic. All right, so that's typically what this is. I'll put the information for these down below. They don't make this one anymore. I love this microphone. This would be a studio style mic. And this is kind of common of what you'd see like a podcaster or somebody on radio using. This is my studio mic. I am not, however, recording today into this studio mic. I actually have a lavalier mic, which is a different style of microphone. Now, in these lavalier mics, they're designed to be recorded from your voice, and they're really good at eliminating external noises. This is a wired lavalier mic. So this actually has a cable. I've left it out so you could see it, so don't criticize me for keeping my cable out. I just wanted to make sure you knew this was a cabled mic. And then we have things like wireless lavalier mics. These are probably the most popular for podcasting. You can actually record into your iPhone and upgrade your iPhone microphones using these. And you can definitely use them into cameras. Most of these are going to be used for like spoken word. And there's some advantages. You'll hear all that because I'm going to test all of this. You're going to hear it out in my really noisy, loud echo basement. I'm going to record all this and you're going to hear it. This other style that's very common, especially with my wildlife photography friends, are called shotgun mics. And I've got a couple in this video. Some of these are going to be integrated. This is one I bought from a company called Joby. I really like this. I got a great deal on it. By the way, I'm going to put a plug in here for my channel overall. I do a lot of different styles of video. So I do, opinion pieces. I do some talking head type videos, do some educational things. I also do product reviews, and I've been focusing on value during the holidays. So in the future, I'm going to show you deals like this. This was a $200 microphone. I think I paid $30 for it. I got an unbelievable price on this thing, and I am proud to own it. I bought this with my own money. I recommended it to a lot of people. You'll hear the sound of this in just a minute. Another style of microphone. This is just a microphone. So I showed you that Joby was integrated. This is a standalone microphone. Now, when I use these standalone, I mentioned there's three components we need. We need the mic, we need the connector, and then we need a way to amplify the signal. And in this case, for this video, when I test this mic, I used this, and I'm gonna put this on here and leave it on here for the rest of the video, but this mounts to your cold shoe, if I can get it on there. All right, let me get it on. Well, that took a lot longer than it should have. So for the rest of this video, when you see this on here, this is not connected to the camera directly. I do need a cable. So I would use one of these little, I mentioned these 3.5 or the 3.5 millimeter. I would connect this into my camera, and then I would need to connect the microphone to this. And in that case, for this video, again, I just used one of these XLR cables. So these are shotgun style mics. Now, shotgun style mics are kind of like jack of all trade mics, but they have a pattern that looks for noise or listens for noise directly in front of it. If you want to get more technical, these are called cardioid mics or even hypercardioid. What that means is when I have a shotgun mic, and the shape is pretty indicative of what it does. It's picking up sound from in front, and it's actually rejecting sound from around the side. So you'll hear it, but it's much lower. It rejects most of the sound from the back. So almost all the sound comes from the front. We call that a pattern. So when mics have patterns, it means where do they pick the sound up from? These are directional, so they're picking it up straight from in front. You can use these for spoken word, but as you get farther away from the mic, it gets harder because what the microphone has to do is amplify, or what the processors have to do is amplify the signal to hear your voice. And in the process, it's picking up all of the ambient sound. The advantage of lav mics like this is that they're at a set distance and they're always the same distance from your mouth. So as you move and as you talk, your voice stays very constant. So those are kind of the general types of mics that we have. Now, before we get into the testing, I want to explain the difference because there's two umbrellas of microphones and it's not specific to the type. So whether it's a microphone or a handheld mic or a studio mic, there's two families of microphones. And one of those families is called a dynamic mic and one is called a condenser mic. Now, I am going to put over here on the side just some verbiage to help with this because you do have to know which style of mic you have. If you have a dynamic mic like this, it does not need an electric source. It doesn't need to be powered. So there's no batteries in here. I basically just plug this in and I let this do the work. This does not need electricity. That's really, really important. Another style of microphone might be a condenser mic. And when you have a condenser mic, it requires electricity to work. It actually needs a power source. Now, fortunately, there is a power source in here to do that. We call this phantom power. So it means I'm putting a little bit of an electric charge in here so I can let the microphone work the way it's supposed to. I'm not going to get into details on that, but you do have to know the difference. Because if you were to hook this mic up directly into your camera and thought, my mic is broken, I need to return it, it's not the case. It doesn't have a power source, so it's not going to work. So for my testing, what we're going to listen to today is all of the recordings being done at the same distance from my camera. You're going to see me on video, and I'm going to tell you what the microphone is, and then I'm going to say a short phrase. Now, I had to randomly pick a phrase, and I couldn't think of one, so I just took my favorite song lyric. So if you're a Jackson Browne fan, you're going to get to hear this lyric a lot. I'm going to show you what the shotgun mics sound like first from about 15 feet away. Now, at the bottom, there's a couple of things, and I'll pull up an example of what it's going to look like. There's some verbiage down there. I'm going to tell you the name of the mic. I'm going to tell you the type of interface. So did we use the camera directly or did we use an interface up here? And then I'm going to tell you if there's anything special about that. I'm also going to tell you what's called gain. And gain is important because this is a boost. This is a signal boost. So we make it louder. Think of it as a volume knob. We're going to turn up the volume, but we're going to turn it up before we record it. The better our amps or preamps are. So if this is really, really good quality, I want to boost the signal here as much as possible. If I rely on the camera to boost the signal, the sound isn't going to be as good. If I rely on software to boost the signal, the sound may not be as good. So when you look down there, I want you to pay attention to where that gain is being put in. By the way, this is a Nikon Z6. It does not have a gain setting. So when you see a number in there, it's going to be 1 through 20. 1 means it's basically the camera's not boosting the signal at all. 20 is just the most it does. It's an arbitrary number, so it's not a decibel gain. But for this, it's going to be measured in decibels. And for the output on my software, it's going to be measured in decibels. And I had to do that just to balance it all out. In an ideal world, most of the gain will come from this interface. So when you see interface gain high, that's actually probably better than getting my gain out of here. And in some mics, I had to get my gain out of the camera, or I had to do it in software to make it loud enough to hear. All right, so if you understand what the verbiage means, we're going to get on to testing. We're going to do the shotgun mics first. You're going to hear the camera, just the camera mic, and again, it's not a real good quality. Then you're going to hear the shotgun mic with me 15 feet away. And the 3 separate mics you're going to hear are the Joby. So you're going to hear this mic. This has the integrated system, so I don't need this external if I don't have it. I can just plug this right into the camera, and I'm going to use this at a 20 decibel gain. So I'm actually going to let this do most of the processing power. Again, the better the processing here, the cleaner the signal. The other mic you're going to hear is this little Movo. I've had this for years, so I thought I'd just test it. This needs amplification, so I just plug in. This has a 3.5 millimeter jack at the back. I'm going to plug that into here, and then I'm going to plug this into my camera, and that's going to be what you hear. And then the last one is going to be this Deity mic, By the way, I got a steal on this deity mic. I told you I consider myself like the practical wildlife photographer, and I love to share values. This was a $300 mic that I paid $120, $130 for, and I bought this out of pocket. Even though I have an affiliation with B&H, I'm like, I'm just buying this one because I want to keep it. I really, really like this. It's built. It's got some weather resistance in there. When you hear this mic, it was actually just going to be set right on top of here, but I did need to connect it, so I've got that USB, XLR connector, and then that's going to go from here into here, and then it's going to go out to the camera with that 3.5mm jack. Make sense so far? So let's listen to what it sounds like. This is the first test of the camera mic. I'm using no external microphone. This is just the camera mic. I'm going to read a script, and this is at +15 on the back of the camera. But the angels are older. They can see that the sun's setting fast. They look over my shoulder at the vision of paradise contained in the light of the past. This is the Joby integrated mic on the hot gun, or the hot shoe, with one line out, +20 directly into the shotgun mic, +10 on the back of the camera. This is your audio quality of the Joby shotgun microphone. But the angels are older. They can see that the sun's setting fast. They look over my shoulder at the vision of paradise contained in the light of the past. Now this is a less expensive mic from Movo. It's run into the audio interface and then into the camera. The camera set at +10, and here's your script. But the angels are older. They can see that the sun's setting fast. They look over my shoulder at the vision of paradise contained in the light of the past. Now this is the deity mic, and I've lowered the amplification or the gain on the camera. I don't need as much. And I've got this mic plugged into an external adapter with some gain applied on that adapter. Here's the script. And the angels are older. They can see that the sun's setting fast. They look over my shoulder at the vision of paradise contained in the light of the past. Now what I heard was that the shotgun mics all sounded way better than just the camera mics, but they all sounded close. I didn't think one sounded tremendously better than the others. I will tell you, I listened to this with headphones on so I could hear what's called a noise floor. So in those little bits that I wasn't talking, what did it sound like? So when I equalized my voice, so when my voice was talking and I got them all to the same volume, but then I took my voice out or I wasn't talking, how much background noise was there? The deity system with this, external, that gave me the best noise floor. Now you can test this. There are audio files out there that are like, Scott, you should have tested that. You got to take my word for it. It was a little bit better, but what I wanted you to do is get the concept of what a shotgun mic sounds like and how much better it sounds than the camera mic. But notice, at 15 feet away, you could hear that echo in the room for sure. If I was out in nature or out in a traffic scene and I was relying on a shotgun mic for spoken word, I would pick up a lot of that external noise. Even though it's directional, even though it's picking up most of my voice, it's just naturally going to pick up some of the other stuff. And the further I get away from that shotgun mic, the worse it gets, because that mic is going to try to boost the signal for my voice. And as I get further away, the voice is harder to pick up, so it gets louder and it picks up more noise. So it can be a pretty noisy scenario. Now, the next one we're going to test are lav mics. And I'm going to show you two lav situations. I'm going to show you this wired mic. And when I give you the wired mic, it's going to go into what's called a field recorder. So I'm actually recording this not into the camera, but I've got this on my waist and it's wired and I'm actually recording it into here. There's some big advantages for that. This gives you the cleanest sound, almost by far. However, I have to sync it later on. So I have to take the audio file out of here, put it into my computer, take the video file out of here and match them together. And that can be a little bit of a pain. So I don't love doing that. You can also run it from here directly into the camera. So that's one of the advantages of this system. This, by the way, is called the Zoom F3. I'll put a link to this. Zoom has many devices that do this. All right, so you're going to hear this lav mic just as I have it here, wired into the system. And then you're going to hear these two. So you're going to hear this wireless system and what that sounds like. Now, the wireless system this is what you see when you see people talking into this all the time. Sometimes they put it on like the end of a spatula. It drives me a little crazy, but this is what you hear. This is not the sound. This is turned off, but this is what they do. Designed to be put on your clothing, and you don't need cables. These can go like, I've easily gone like 60 feet with these and no problem. The advantage is you're recording your voice very close. It doesn't pick up a lot of ambient noise. And then the transmitter gets plugged directly into the camera. So your sound's going right into the camera. You don't have to sync anything. It's all getting synced right in the camera, and it's very, very, very convenient. There is a downside to this one, and this is true of all wireless. This, by the way, is from DJI. If I say DJI, just forgive me because I probably will do it. DJI. Rode makes a system that's very, very popular. They make several versions of this. There's several companies. There's some very inexpensive ones. Stay away from the inexpensive ones. They don't sound great. You can get interference. So if you're in an area like an urban setting, you can actually get interference. So you're going to be recording some of this static or rumbling, and it can get bad. Now, if you're in a clean environment out in the woods, you don't have to worry about that. But this is your most popular piece. We're going to listen for what that sounds like. And as a comparison, I'm just going to give you what this handheld sounded like when I plugged it into this interface and into the computer. So those are your scenarios for this set of videos. Listen to the lav mics, listen to the difference in the echo that you hear, but then listen to the quality of the voice and then compare that with the quality of voice when I had the handheld mic. All right, here we go. And now I'm testing the DJI Mini wireless mic system. This has a gain applied of +12 on the actual mic system and a gain of +5 on the camera system. I will equal that out at my desk. We're in the noisy room on a lav mic. Here's my script. But the angels are getting older. They can see that the sun's setting fast. They look over my shoulder at the vision of paradise contained in the light of the past. This should be the highest recording for this situation. I'm recording directly into an external Zoom F3 field recorder, directly with a wired connection through a lav mic. I've got this set at X4 on the Zoom, and I'll see if I can remember my script off the top of my head. But the angels are older. They can see that the sun's setting fast. They look over my shoulder at the vision of paradise contained in the light of the past. And I think I nailed it. I thought it'd be interesting at the end just to compare what a higher level audio sound would sound like. This is a cabled XLR going right into an audio adapter, going right into the camera. The camera's set at +10. This is a dynamic handheld mic. It's a very good mic. And I'm going to read my script with this. You tell me if you can tell a difference. But the angels are older. They can see that the sun's setting fast. They look over my shoulder at the vision of paradise contained in the light of the past. Now with this one, I thought it was pretty clear. I thought the handheld mic sounded the best, but each mic has a little different tone. I'm going to do an experiment at the end where I play every mic side by side, and you're going to hear the different tones that some of these mics have. For example, this handheld sounds much different than this. They just have a different tone, and that's the way some mics are designed. The next best one I thought was this wired mic. It has some other advantages on the recording side. I'm not going to get into that, but I thought it sounded pretty good. This one also sounded very good, and it isolated the other sound very well. I thought this one sounded a little muddier, meaning the range of my voice, it didn't show the range of my voice as well, but I thought it did a very capable job. And in fact, this is so convenient. When I'm recording back here in my studio, this is the new setup that I use. When I'm at the desk, I typically use this. Sometimes I use that old studio mic that I still love. So you heard that, right? Like you can hear those differences. So when we talk about what's the best system for me, I'm going to give you two scenarios, and then we're going to play them all together, and I want you to listen to this. The first scenario is I want to record myself a little bit, but I'm more worried about the environment. I'm a wildlife photographer, and I'm doing some video of loons, or I've got an elk that's bugling. Well, it's going to be pretty tough for me to take a lav mic over to him or a handheld mic and put it up to him. So I need to be at a distance, and I want to find a mic that has a very defined pattern. These shotgun mics generally all do the same thing. And then I want to get the cleanest sound out of that mic possible. So for that situation, these shotgun mics are going to be the way to go. If you're doing much more spoken word, and that's your 90% of what you're doing is spoken word, then you're going to want to look at one of these lav mics. It makes a tremendous, I think I just bumped mine. That's one of the disadvantages of a lav mic. It's going to make a tremendous difference to the sound of your voice. And because it's tethered to you, you can turn away from it. You can move, and you don't have to worry about always focusing your voice right at the shotgun mic. So shotgun mics work for vocals, but typical scenario for most people is when you have a shotgun mic like this, it's going to be put up, they call this booming, and it's put like right over your head. I actually bought some mics that I thought I would do that with, and I just never thought it sounded as good as the other mics that I have. But you would put it right here and it would only be about a foot away from your mouth. When you start getting 5 feet, 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, the sound changes dramatically with those shotgun mics. The nice thing about this system or with these wireless systems is no matter where I go, the sound quality is the same because my voice is always the same distance from the mic. So some huge advantages for spoken word when it does that. Now I'm going to do another follow-up video. I'm going to do one more sound test. Don't leave, you're going to like this one. I'm going to do a follow-up video where I'm going to take just shotgun mics and I'm going to record some nature. And then I'm going to take some other types of mics. I may get my hands on a parabolic mic. You've seen those big like domes. I might try to get one of those. And then I'll get some omnidirectional or stereo mics. And those are the ones that record sounds of ambiance, of nature. They kind of get all the sound. So if you're immersing yourself in the sounds of the woods, that would be the type of microphone to get. And I think it'll be an interesting video. I love these audio videos. Again, I mentioned I went down a wormhole a while ago. I have a real appreciation for it, and there's some science behind it. But as the practical wildlife photographer, what matters the most is what can I hear? And can I tell a difference? So really, really important with that. All right, so we talked about the mics, we talked about the connections, we talked a little bit about these preamplifiers and amplification systems and the adapters. Let's just do one final test where I'm going to just take that lyrical phrase and I'm going to stack it up all the way through. Now this is going to be processed. So there's a little bit of processing that I put in here to get everything normalized. I'm going to turn down my mic and I'm going to click on the volume. And I want you to listen with me and we'll go through it together and I'll show you each one of these as we go through. So I'm going to turn this down and let's have a listen.
But the angels are older, they can see that the sun's setting fast. They look over my shoulder at the vision of paradise contained in the light of the past. But the angels are older, they can see that the sun's setting fast. They look over my shoulder at the vision of paradise contained in the light of the past. And the angels are older, they can see that the sun's setting fast. They look over my shoulder at the vision of paradise contained in the light of the past.
But the angels are getting older, they can see that the sun's setting fast. They look over my shoulder at the vision of paradise contained in the light of the past. But the angels are older, they can see that the sun's setting fast. They look over my shoulder at the vision of paradise contained in the light of the past. But the angels are older, they can see that the sun's setting fast. They look over my shoulder at the vision of paradise contained in the light of the past. And the angels are older, they can see that the sun's setting fast. They look over my shoulder at the vision of paradise contained in the light of the past. So when you put them all together, you can really see the difference. To me, I mean, what I hear is those shotgun mics were much better than the camera mic, but for spoken word, they weren't even close to as good as the lav mics. I thought the lav mics were both very, very good. I thought the handheld mic, this one sounded really, really good. This one, I just want to compare this. These are very similar in some ways, but you can tell a huge tonal difference. So microphones just have a different character. This one is much warmer, and that's why my voice sounded lower. I didn't process that voice. That's just how it sounded. In this one, you get more of like the higher frequencies. So you get a little bit more of that crispness with that mic. So I thought that was an interesting test. I hope you liked that one. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it answered some questions. Maybe it introduced some questions. Like maybe there's more. Maybe there's some things I forgot. So if you're curious, I will respond to your questions down in the comments. So down in the comments, let me know what you're kind of curious about. I will tell you this, for my nature wildlife friends, you're probably going to want to look at a shotgun mic unless you're doing vlogging, unless you're recording yourself. There's a huge advantage in those external mics. For me personally, I would look for value. Most of the shotgun mics are going to sound pretty similar unless you get a really cheap one. So don't cheap out on this. Look for something that has external amplifiers, so that has a boost, that you can boost the signal. So for example, like this Joby that I showed you, I can boost the signal up to 20 decibels on that. Better solution, take a look at a really good external shotgun mic. If you can find my deals, make sure you subscribe to the channel because I give you deals. I got $200 off of that one. And then maybe connect it externally. So in this case, I could connect it externally. I would highly recommend this Beach Tech unit. I'm not affiliated with them at all. I just really thought that was a nice unit. And I can absolutely, I've used several Zoom units. I can absolutely tell you the F3 is really, really great. The difference in these two, and we mentioned it before, is I can record to this and I can still use it to give it a signal to my camera. So this will do what this does. This does not record. So this cannot do what this does. So look into that. If you have questions about these field recorders, I can answer those down in the comments below, and I'm happy to share some links. Now I'm going to put links down there to the stuff that I have. I need to give you a word of caution. I bought this for myself for the channel. I bought the DJI mics. I bought the Joby mics out of pocket, and I bought the DD mics out of pocket because the deals were so good. And I wanted to do this video on microphones, and I thought, I'm just going to buy this stuff. So I can put some links to some of this information down below, but a lot of those sales prices may not be there anymore. So make sure you're subscribed again, because I do these daily deals once in a while, and I can give you some of that. I can put the link for this mic. I highly recommend this if you like studio mics or podcasting or anything like that. It's a really great mic. And that's my video for you today. Now remember, stay tuned. I've got the outdoor video coming up. I'll talk about dealing with the elements and the wind and all of that. We'll do some shotgun mics in that review. If you have any questions down below, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button to push the content out. And as always, I hope we can continue to find inspiration in wildlife together.